So hello everyone. What I wanted to present today was a concept that is called chaos engineering, and I will explain with this presentation what it is. And this presentation is based on a book written by author from Netflix who are using this technique inside the Netflix company. So this is the outline. In fact, I follow the outline of the book I wanted to review today. And at the end, there are some additional references that I added at the end of my presentation. So as an introduction, first, what this presentation is about. So this is a review of the book that is, the front page of this book is on the right of the slide, and the five authors of the book.
Ludovic, it seems you're muted now.
Yeah, we can't hear anymore.
Okay, it's okay now. In fact, I've been muted by François Durand.
Sorry.
Okay, he wanted to mute everyone, in fact, but he also muted the speaker. So what I said is what the presentation is about it is about the review of this book, Chaos Engineering, also from Netflix. There are also some papers in conferences and journals about this technique. And in the references, you will see that nowadays there are many references and many books on that technique. I reproduce here the definition of chaos engineering that is given in the book in the first page of the introduction. Chaos engineering is the discipline of experimenting on a distributed system in order to build confidence in the science, in the system's capability to withstand turbulent conditions in production. And so I know that we are in a working group or ready group about network theory, but here it's more about experimental science about distributed systems. So you will not see any equations. There is no equations in the book. It's mainly the conceptualization and the formalization of the methodology they use and they call chaos engineering. So why do chaos engineering? Chaos engineering is a bit related to system testing, distributed systems testing, but there are a lot of differences with classical testing. Tests are typically binary. There is some echo. No? I hear myself. There are some tests. So those tests are binary, and usually when in classical testing, when you perform some test, you know what you expect, and there is no generation of knowledge about the system. While with chaos engineering, this is really experimenting to generate new knowledge of the system that you don't even think about before you perform the chaos engineering testing. For chaos engineering, there are some prerequisites. You will see that chaos engineering is about performing tests in production, so in real system, commercial system. So the people that want to perform chaos engineering should be almost sure that everything should be okay, and that the system is resilient to real work for the system. Can you mute, please? I hear noise. It is resilient to real. So you should be almost sure that the system should work correctly and should should be able to take care about any events that can perturbate the system. What is also required is that you need to be able to monitor the system under test, so your system in production, because you need to be able to identify what should be the normal working system, working state of the system, and if there is a deviation versus the expected state, you should be able to detect it. If not, then chaos engineering will not be useful, and it just may bring some additional errors in the system, and you will not be able to detect why there are these errors. And you may not even be able to detect what are precisely the problems that is occurring in the system. So I told that the book was from Netflix people. They promote this technique inside their company, but also outside their company, and they are active participants to the chaos, what they call the chaos community. And you see here, I will not give all the name, the name of the companies and institutions that were participating to Chaos Community Day. That was said recent in the book, meaning that it was in maybe 2017 or 16. What they say also about the applicability of chaos engineering is that many industries may be interested in using this technique inside their company. From finance, e-commerce, they give also aviation. So this is just some example taken from the introduction in their book. And it may be also interesting in companies that are not digital companies. It may be also classical financial institutions, manufacturing, and they are also talking about healthcare. So chaos engineering is related to complex distributed systems, and in complex distributed systems, there are many interactions between the different parts, and a failure somewhere may have some effects elsewhere with additional successive failures due to the initial failure. This is quite classical in complex distributed systems. One technique used is the microservice-based architecture, and this kind of technique gives more flexibility in the way to define the architecture of your distributed system, but it is also less understandable. They give the comparison in the book with artificial intelligence. Also, there are some similar aspects with neural networks. You have a lot of flexibility to do things, but then you do not understand everything. There are parts that you cannot understand. So classical testing is not enough, and what is required, in their opinion, is the chaos engineering. And well, I start with the second paragraph. The first paragraph is just the properties that software engineers try to optimize: performance, availability, and fault tolerance. And in Netflix, they had also the idea of being able to have a fast development of new features in their system. And all this is related to maybe something that you heard about, DevOps. It's about shortening the system development life cycle and provide continuous delivery of new features with high software quality. So now we will go inside the core of chaos engineering, the 5 principles of the chaos engineering. So you have the 5 principles here, and I will develop them in the following slides. Hypothesis about steady state, varying real-world events, running experiments in production, automating experiments to run them continuously. And so initially there was this 4th first principle, and they add a last one: minimize, blast, reduce. So about the hypothesis about steady state, in fact, what you need to have some kind of you need to have some metrics, and usually what people do in defining metrics in a distributed system is metrics related to the system, but they really emphasize about the fact that you should define business metrics instead of system metrics. System metrics may help, but business metrics are more fundamental, because what you want to do is not that your system is working perfectly, but that the clients that are using the system are happy with the system and using the system as it is. So it is related to customer satisfaction, which is not, so it's not an easy task to define such business metrics. And in Netflix, what they do, they define one important metric for them, which is the video stream starts per second. So this is something that, of course, may depend about time and about the geographic location of the users. So, and if there is at some points there are less video stream starts per second than expected, this may how to say, a metric that will give you the information that at that time maybe the user were not so happy with the system because they didn't try to start new videos, because maybe there is something that is wrong in your system, in the Netflix system. So you need to balance to have some balance between some properties of in the choice of the metrics. The metrics should be related somehow with the business aspect and with the impact on the clients. So I think, in my opinion, is maybe something that that is the most difficult part of chaos engineering, is to really identify the best metrics for your use case. Then one other aspect is the engineering effort to implement the monitoring of these metrics. You need to collect the data and be able to export from the data the metrics that you want to measure, and to be accurate enough. And one other aspect is to have the latency between the collection of the data in the metrics and the events that trigger the change in these metrics. So you need to have something that is almost real time. And at the end, what you need is to characterize the steady state, and the hypothesis on the steady state is the expected values of the metrics, which may have, as I said, the periodical behavior according to day and week, and also because if you are a worldwide company like Netflix, the geographical location of the users. And when they use chaos engineering for system resiliency experiments, they make the following hypothesis. And it should be, they say that it should be something quite generic for everyone. The events that we are injecting into the system will not cause the system's behavior to change from steady state. So you need to define the steady state with the good metrics, and then being able to check if there are some deviation with this steady state. The second principle is to use to introduce events in your distributed system that are real ones, and to vary the real world events. And they give some list of such kind of real world events. So it can be hardware or software failures, functional bugs, problem of transmission between the nodes in the systems, problems of latency in the networks, etc., etc. You may also have some Byzantine failures, meaning that some nodes may be may be compromised and have some, and so you need you need, if you want to do chaos engineering in such a case, perform such kind of emulation of Byzantine failures. And most important is maybe the last one I put in blue light, is not only you have this kind of real world events, but you may have combination of them. And your system may work if you have a single kind of real world event, but when you combine them together, you may have some unexpected behavior that will bring some problems in your system. They give the following example of events that they perform in chaos engineering testing in Netflix. They turn off some machines randomly. So this is something that is quite easy to do. And what they expect is that the system is robust enough to cope with such kind of machine failure. They also, it's more advanced and more frightening maybe for people. They simulate also regional failures. For example, something similar to a shutdown of a full data center, if you have many data centers in the world. And what they do also is what is more classical is direct injection of some events in the system, increase the load in the machine, increase the latency between in a link in the network, and so on, and different such kind of thing. So principle 2, very real world events. The third is run experiment in production. And this is something that when I read the book and I learned about chaos engineering was the most interesting part for me, is that they do not perform experimentation in a test bed or something that is not in that is just here to test. They really do the test in their system, working with their users. So this is one of the main difference between chaos engineering and classical testing. So they really want to be as close as possible as the production environment they have. And the best way to do it is to do them precisely in the production environment. And the idea is the one I put here, is to force the developers of new features in their system to do the programming in such a way that the software will be resilient to expected events that will occur in real system at some rates. But then, if you do that, you need to mitigate the risk of chaos engineering, because you do not want to break your distributed system and to impact too many users. So you should, this is why it was a prerequisite they spoke about in the introduction. You need to be reasonably confident in the fact that your system is resilient. And you also have the possibility to minimize the potential harm, and there are two ways to do it. You need to be able to, if there is something is going wrong, you need to be able to abort your experiment very quickly. And you can also minimize the blast radius of the experiment, which is the principle 5 I will speak in the next slides. Principle 4 is about automation. You need also to be able to automate experiments, to run them continuously. And why automation? Because making them manually, then what you produce in terms of software platform to make them the experiments will be quite quickly obsolete. You want also to be able to run experiments continuously and to be able to face system evolution. So automation is a way to being able to do all these things. And in Netflix, what they do for the automation, in fact, they have a specific chaos engineering team the author of the book, are part of this team that help the other teams that develops new features, new services to increase the availability of what they developed, and they encourage them, and they cooperate with them and they put them also to adopt the chaos engineering principles. For that, there are two tools. Chaos Monkey. Chaos Monkey is the one that they developed is a software that they developed to stop some machine in the network. And Chaos Kong is Kong is like King Kong. In fact, it's a big monkey. Is a tool they developed to shut down a region in their distributed system to emulate the regional failures. And apart from that, they have something which is a bit intermediate, Chaos Automation Platform, to have something from instance to regional failures. I will speak a bit more about these tools in the third part. The last principle, minimize, blast, reduce. They took the example of the Chernobyl nuclear accident in 1986. This is something I didn't know. Apparently, the disaster was triggered by a resilient exercise, and it went wrong. So, of course, this is a very extreme case, but this is something in a company that you don't want. You do not want to have to perform some exercise and then having a real problem after the exercise. So this is the goal of these 5 principles, to minimize the blast radius. So the idea is really to go progressively. You first start with low-risk experiments with very few users and devices. Then you increase the scale of your experiments. And the large scale experiment being produced after you check that everything is okay in the smaller experiments. Now I will speak about chaos in practice, the third part of their book, and they describe the process they use, they propose to design such an experiment. And it's not a surprise. This process is the different steps of the process are related to the principles they define in the last slide, the previous slide. So first, you need to pick an hypothesis that you want to test with chaos engineering principles. And this corresponds to the second principle about varying real-world events. So you need to define what kind of events you want to test during your experiments. I think there is an error. It's principle 3. You need to choose the scope of the experiment. So running an experiment in a production, but at which scale? And having in mind also that you want to minimize blast radius with the principle 5. Then they apply the principle 1. You identify the metrics you are going to watch. So it is about the hypothesis that you do about your steady state. And then this is important, and at least for the first experiments that you want to perform in a given organization, you need to notify the organization. They need, of course, at the beginning to be aware, because when you say to someone that you will introduce failure in the system, they may not be happy. So at the beginning, it's really important to notify the people involved in the monitoring of the system, and to discuss and to explain what will be done. When the philosophy of the chaos engineering is spreading in the company, and apparently it was the case in Netflix, it is less important because people becomes used to such kind of experiment, and it becomes part of the normal process. Then you run the experiments with Principal 2. You analyze the results, and to analyze the results, it is important also to interact with the concerned services to do that. And then you increase the scope, following the principle 5 with minimizing the blast radius. At the beginning, you start to small scale and you increase the scale. And once you do this kind of thing, then you can think about automating the experiments to be able to run them continuously when chaos engineering becomes something more as a usual practice in the company. They define to understand where they are about chaos engineering in Netflix. They define the maturity model of chaos on two aspects. The first one is about sophistication of chaos engineering from elementary to advanced. So I will not read all what I wrote here that I extract from their book. Just to say that elementary, in fact, it's almost not chaos engineering. It's not in production. It's manual. You use system metrics and really simple events, but then you progressively you add things that are closer to what they define as chaos engineering. With at the end, everything automatic, everything in production, with business metrics and multiple events combining different events. The second axis of that define the maturity model is how it is adopted in an organization. So at the beginning, it's really what they wrote in the shadow. It's really kind of hidden projects with very few aspects, with very small experiments using chaos engineering. And then progressively, the enterprise, the people, the employees in the enterprise adopt the chaos engineering model by investing more about them, and at least at the end adopting them. And the higher level is that people in the company expect that everyone is using chaos engineering to increase the reliability or the resiliency of their system. Here is a picture that they gave about how they estimate the chaos maturity in Netflix in the year of the book for different techniques that they developed. So the first one was Chaos Monkeys, and then Kong followed just after Chaos Monkeys. So they estimate in 2017 that these tools were very highly adopted in the company, and they are quite highly sophisticated. And then the Chaos Chaos automation platform. It was in the middle for the sophistication, but not yet at that time really adopted in Netflix. Now I will speak about the different tools they developed in Netflix, and they describe in different parts of the book. First, Chaos Monkey. So they introduced this in the late 2010 years. In fact, why they do that? It's because the streaming service of Netflix started to move to the cloud a few years before, and they saw many single point of failure in the way the solution was working in the cloud. which caused massive interruption of video delivery. So a new approach was required. And how they do that, they developed the Chaos Monkey, which goal was to terminate instances and in fact shut down machines in the or instances of VMs, virtual machine in the cloud in production to ensure that engineers were implementing their solution, their services in a resilient way, being able to cope with virtual machine shutdowns, accidental shutdowns. It is open source, so you can go to see this software if you want. It's developed in Go, and you can go to the GitHub, the Netflix GitHub website for Chaos Monkey. Chaos Kong was the stronger version of, we can say, of Chaos Monkey. But I think it's something completely different because the idea here was really to shut down a part of the region of the distributed system. So why they do that is at some point they had a single region and there was a failure in 2012, which was quite onerous for them. So they switched to multi-regional failover strategy. The idea is quite simple. If something is wrong somewhere, then you go elsewhere with this kind of strategy. But then you need to check that everything for the failover. You have a method that is working well to perform that. And they built Chaos Kong to test that in 2013. So the Chaos Kong is really built to turn off an entire Amazon Web Service region. I'm not very familiar how AWS is working, but they explain that it's like if you shut down, if you have multiple data center in the world, and you have to shut down one complete data center. What they explain is that they run Chaos Kong exercise about once per month in Netflix. So it becomes a usual practice now in their company. Another tool is I talked about this one to talk after about CHAP. This one is quite classical. Failure injection testing is something that is quite classical. You inject faults in your system, and they developed such a kind of tool to be able to test their microservice-based architecture. So it's something which is a bit intermediate between small scale, a single instance of VM is shut down, to large scale with Chaos Kong. How they do that? Well, I don't know. I don't have the details. They don't give the detail of the other service is working, but they had some failure scenarios in their systems, and it's what they call requests, and this request propagates through the systems, and they try to have microservice development that can cope with such kind of problems. And what is different from Chaos Monkey and Chaos Kong is that FIT was deployed as a self-service tool that could be used by anyone in the company, while Chaos Monkey and Chaos Kong was managed by the team that are working on Chaos Engineering. But this tool had some limitation, and what they did is to develop a new platform, Chaos Automation Platform. They call them CHAP. In 2016 to address the limitation of FIT. They based this platform on what they call automatic canary analysis, a tool they had few years ago. They developed a few years ago before, which in fact developed, which was used for the deployment of new codes in small cluster and being able to to get the steady state metrics and the change in the steady state metrics between the new code and the previous code. A lot of work was done about the automation. If, they automate the template for true experimentation in system in production. And they also integrate the strategy to minimize the blast radius for that. So by doing that, they were able to compare between the control experiment cluster that was implementing in the minimization of the blast radius target they had, and they were affecting a minimal, a small amount of the traffic, and they were able to also to run very large number of experiments in parallel thanks to this platform. So this platform was still in development, I think, during the writing of their book in 2017. Now I will reach the conclusion. So the conclusion of the book is quite short. In fact, there is the message they want to give in the conclusion are the three following. One, everyone can operate chaos engineering techniques in their system. It's still a very young field, so and that is evolving, and they call to people and readers to join the chaos engineering community to increase and to improve what was done at the time. They give also a lot of resources in the conclusion, so I will not give them to you. There were too many. So it was a book written in 2017. Two authors of the 5 authors of the book I presented published a new book with more details, more information, and many more details about chaos engineering. So Casey Rosenthal and Nora Jones. And there are also now, today, other books from other authors. I gave the Google book link about that. And I will conclude with this last slide. Why was I interested in chaos engineering? In fact, I follow a common lab in area Nokia Bell Labs project that is called chaos testing today. In fact, so it's not really chaos engineering because I said that chaos engineering is different than classical testing. What we wanted to develop is to do in this project of collaboration with INRIA was to be able to reuse some of the ideas of chaos engineering, but not on a real platform, because myself as a researcher in Bell Labs, I cannot, I don't have access of such kind of thing. We are more equipment suppliers. What I can do maybe is to have some experimental setup on which we can test things. But there are so many ideas in chaos engineering that are interesting. The automation, the idea of having multiple events in parallel, real world likes events in parallel, which may bring things that we are not expecting. So this with a PhD student at INRIA and people at INRIA, Johan Boursier and Olivier Barré in Rennes, we worked on a new concept of that we call chaos testing to implement to automate test and getting new knowledge from this test inspired by chaos engineering. And so for your information, we will have a paper with, that will be presented by the PhD student Alif Akbar Pranata at Globecom this year in December. And I think that's all. Then I will give the slide in the website of the links. So I give some references. So the first one is the book that I presented, and there are other books, as I said. There are also some papers in a journal, and here this is a workshop here. So this one is the book. In fact, is like an extension of a report extending the ideas presented in the paper in the IEEE software article. This one, the second paper is about CHAP. It was published in a workshop. And if when I was trying to check the first mention of chaos engineering or chaos monkeys, it was essentially on blogs at Netflix. Microsoft is also using this kind of concept. And here I give some additional links about on Wikipedia about the principles. There is a new URL, principlesofchaos.org. You have details of chaos engineering at Netflix in different blogs. And I also mentioned Gremlins. That is I think it's a startup, in fact, that build their business with chaos engineering principles. And thank you everyone. So, any questions? I know it's a bit different from traditional network theory presentations.
So. I'm a bit intrigued because, for example, so when they want to test a regional failure, so practically what happens and what can be seen from the user point of view.
So what I understood,
yes,
because I'm not fully aware of all the technical details. In fact, they are using the Microsoft. I think it's Amazon AWS. Yeah, they use that, so they cannot ask Amazon to shut down
yes,
their data centers. So they emulate them. I don't know how they do that. They emulate like if a region of Amazon was shutting down.
Okay.
Cutting the links they have with this region, for example.
Okay.
And they look what happened. Of course, they expect and they are almost sure that everything was developed in software in such a way that the traffic will be rerouted elsewhere.
Okay.
And maybe there will be some small perturbation for some users, but they expect to have a minimal impact on the user. And they will measure that with the business metrics they developed. I cannot be more precise because they are not. In fact, it's a short book. I didn't say that. It's a 60-page book, so it's like a report, in fact. And I think that the report, the book published in 2020 from two of the authors of the first report, is apparently more developed and with more details and more examples. Also. But I did not add that book.
Comments, Eric? No, well, discussing how to implement some ideas of this.
I think, yeah, it's.
I think what we are saying is that a very simple thing I think that you can do is when you develop a web API, at least in development, make it fail randomly. So because we always assume that we're going to work a request to this API, we never assume it fails because it's local development never fails. So I think just doing that really makes developer think about
I think the chaos engineering is a generic principle. There are generic principles that should be adapted to each case. In fact, it depends really on the case. In some cases, for the business metrics, it may be easy. In other cases, it may be more difficult to identify them, and then you will need to rely on other metrics more related to the systems, and you expect that it should be it should give some hints about what should be the impact on the client.
Yeah, but I was thinking also about the business metrics. You also need some scale, right? Because you need a lot of customers to have this kind of metric. And if you don't have many customers, it's much more easier to rely on CPU metrics and so on, which are less noisy, because if you have like 10 customers, then difference.
I agree. Well, the idea here was just to present this book, and I really like the idea of when I was a bit surprised that people could propose such kind of thing in a big company to test if the system is okay by just trying test in the real the working system.
In the end, it's more like about personal mindset change, right?
Yeah. So I read for this presentation this book. I read it. I think it was in 2018 or something like that. At the beginning of the project we have with INRIA. So I read it again. It's quite short. I read it again for this presentation, and this put the idea is more stable in my mind about that. And I really like the idea, this idea of using the real system. Maybe in some cases it's not possible. Maybe in some cases people will be too afraid to do that, but then you can have some ideas of doing a bit like this is like we do with INRIA. We are not doing chaos engineering. We are doing something that we call chaos testing, just because it is quite close in some aspect to chaos engineering, but it is really testing in emulated platforms or experimental platforms, not in real system today, at least.
If you're too afraid to do this, it's kind of closing your eyes, like saying, oh, I pray for this not to happen in production, but I mean, if you're too afraid to do it, it means that the day it will really happen in a way.
In fact, they are a bit more positive in the way they present this in the book. They say that if you are really too afraid to do it, maybe it is because you are not ready to do it yet, because your system is not resilient enough today.
But
you need to before to increase the resiliency, and then use it after.
Often you try to build resiliency in your complex system, but in fact, as you said, it's very difficult to test it in production, and so you implement some resiliency. In theory, it should work. But you are always in your mind. You have always a saying that you didn't think about the edge case or a succession of events that could lead to failure, even though you think about
it's complex to be able to do that.
Very clear.
And I really like the idea. This is what we wanted to do in testing. In fact, with the INRIA collaboration. It was the idea of developing a methodology and a tool, but at the end we don't have the full tool because it's too complex for the small team we were. To have a methodology to be able to define easily the scenarios of test in a testing platform, but scenario test with many events, and just see it's just a test platform, so you can do it. It's not the real platform. So it was easier to say that you can do that, even if something wrong is happening. It's just a test platform.